What's going on? In today's video, I'm going to walk you through the best photo and video settings for the Kodak PixPro FZ55. So I'm going to jump into the menu, go through all the different settings and explain exactly what they do and what I'd recommend setting it at. And like always, I'm not going to waste your time. I'm going to jump right into this video. So if it does help you out, please consider dropping a like and subscribing. Now let's check it out. Okay, so let's power this thing up, and I'm going to start out with the photo settings, and then after we finish those, I'll get into the video settings. So we're going to go ahead and hit this button right here next to the mode button, and open up this menu right here. And then we're going to start out right up top here at exposure metering. So there's three different options you can choose from here. We have AI AE, which stands for AI auto exposure. We have spot auto exposure, and then we have center auto exposure. So we start out right here on AI AE. This essentially looks over the entire frame. So basically whatever you're looking at in front here, it's gonna look over the entire image and try to find the best exposure overall. So nothing's gonna be super overexposed, nothing's gonna be super dark. It's just gonna try to find generally the best exposure based on the entire image. And then spot, this will actually just have this little spot that you can move around, and essentially just whatever's inside this little box, that's gonna be the only thing it looks at to try to find the exposure. So if you put your exposure spot right in this corner, it's gonna perfectly expose for that right there. But anything else on the screen, it could be completely underexposed. It won't even be looking at it or won't really care how exposed it is, because it's really just gonna be looking at that one specific spot. And then center is similar to spot. So it's just gonna be this spot right in the center here. Everything that's right in the center of the screen will be perfectly exposed. But again, if there's something even like right up to the side here on the corner or anywhere around the center, it could be completely underexposed and the camera just really won't care, won't even be looking at it. So there are definitely use cases for all three of these, but I personally, pretty much 100% of the time, I just keep mine on AI AE here. Because again, that's just gonna look over the entire image and it's gonna generally find the best exposure for you. All right, then I've moved on here to resolution. There's a bunch of different options you can choose from. So 16 all the way down to VGA. For this, I would recommend 100% of the time, just stick this on 16 megapixels. This is gonna be the sharpest, best quality, highest resolution photos. And you can see this is the full resolution right here. So 4,608 pixels wide by 3,456 pixels tall. All right, next up down here, this is continuous autofocus versus single autofocus. So this right here, AFS or continuous autofocus off. What essentially this means is that it's only gonna focus when you half press the shutter button or go to take a photo. It'll get your focus and then it'll capture the photo. But anytime you're not, anytime the camera's just sitting here, it's not gonna be looking for focus. But with continuous autofocus on, or AFC, this will essentially mean the camera is always gonna be looking for focus. So even right now, I don't have my finger on the shutter button at all. It would technically be trying to find focus on wherever the focus point is on your image here. Even when you're just holding the camera by your side or something like that, it's just gonna continuously be trying to find a focus, which can be good for a lot of situations. Like if you have a lot of fast moving subjects that you're following along with, it'll pretty much always be trying to focus on them, so that when you do want to take a picture, it'd pretty much be ready to go. But personally, I find that most of the time I just have it on single autofocus here or continuous autofocus off, so that when I'm holding it by my side or when I'm not thinking about taking a photo, it's not just continuously trying to focus. It kind of makes noise sometimes when it focuses as well. And also continuous autofocus uses a little bit more battery because again, it's always going to be trying to focus, not just when you want to take a photo. So like I said, I usually keep it on continuous autofocus off, and then when I want to get focus, I'll just half press the shutter button, get my focus, and then take my photo. All right, next up right here is actually gonna be your shooting mode. So single right here means if you press and hold the shutter button down, it'll take one photo, but even if you keep holding it, it's not gonna keep taking photos. It's just gonna take one single photo. But if you move over to continuous shot, if you press the shutter button and hold it down, it's just gonna keep snapping photos over and over and over continuously until you let off of this button. So that's of course good for burst shooting, for like action photography, you know, sports photography or things like that. With fast moving subjects, you can just continuously shoot, take a big burst of photos, and then, you know, just find whichever one looks best and utilize that one. And then there's 3 shots. So every time you press the shutter button, whether you hold it or if you don't even hold it, you just tap it. It's gonna take 3 shots every single time. So just a quick burst of 3 and then it'll stop. So it's just kind of a type of burst shooting where you don't have to continuously hold it. You can still just snap it like a normal photo and let go. Do 3 shots really quick so you can choose the best out of those 3. And then we have time lapse. So essentially this means when you press the shutter button, it's gonna every 30 seconds, every 1 minute, 5 minutes or 10 minutes, it'll take a photo It'll wait that time again, then it'll take another photo continuously until the battery dies or until you stop it. And so you can do time lapses of like a sunset or a sunrise or things like that pretty easily with this, and it just automatically does it on its own. Personally, I keep it on single right here almost all the time. Every once in a while, I'll put it into continuous shooting, but usually I just pick this camera up, aim it at what I want to take a picture of, and shoot it. I don't really use this for really extreme, sports and things like that. So again, most of the time, I just have this on single shooting for just standard street photography. All right, next up, this is gonna be your focus points. So single autofocus point means there will just be one point on the screen. There'll just be this little box on the screen that anything inside of that is what it's gonna try to focus on. Anything outside of the box, it's not even gonna try to focus on. So you might notice this is kind of similar to the auto exposure points. So again, with single AF, anything inside the box, it'll focus on, anything else it won't. With multi-AF, it looks over the entire image here, the entire screen, and usually whatever's closest or whatever it thinks the subject is, it'll go ahead and focus on, again, no matter where on the screen it actually is. And then object tracking, this is kind of like single autofocus, but once it actually focuses on a subject, it'll pretty much track onto it and try to lock on as much as it can. So once you're locked onto it, if it moves around, it comes closer or farther to the screen, it'll do the best it can to keep tracking it and keep focus on it no matter what. I personally find that multi-autofocus does the trick almost all the time for me. I don't really have to worry about where my autofocus point is. It's just gonna find whatever the subject is, whatever's closest to the screen usually, or whatever's centered, and it's gonna get focused on it pretty quick for me, and I really don't have to worry about it that often. But if there's a really specific subject and it's really small that I wanna capture and get focus on, sometimes I'll switch to single point autofocus just to make sure I get focus on exactly what I want to. But we're gonna go ahead and select multi-AF. All right, down to the next page here. So what HDR does is essentially it lowers the highlights a little bit and raises the shadows to make images look a little bit less contrasty and just a little bit smoother. That's not really the best explanation for HDR, but that's kind of the simplest way I can put it. So for example, this is kind of contrasty right here. It's really bright on this side. It's really dark on this side. Hypothetically, with HDR on, it would lower these bright parts just a little bit and raise the shadows over here just a little bit to kind of just smooth things out and make it look less contrasty. And it's kind of what iPhones usually do. So like iPhone photos have a really distinct look because everything is just perfectly exposed. The thing about that is sometimes it looks a bit unnatural. Sometimes it can actually look really unnatural, like iPhone photos sometimes do. And especially on this camera, it's a bit of a budget camera. It really isn't the best at HDR. I find I just turn this off and I don't even worry about it. It doesn't make a whole lot of a difference. And if I do want to raise the shadows and lower the highlights, I can just do that in an editing software or even on my phone or something like that. So personally, I just keep HDR off, but feel free to mess with it if you want to try it out. Next up is white balance. So I'll actually show you right here. White balance is essentially the warmth or the coolness of the look of your images. So for example, like you might notice sometimes indoors you have really warm lights from lamps and things. That's a really warm white balance. And obviously like a more white or bluish looking light is a really cool white balance. And the goal with white balance is usually to have your white spots, so like this is white over here. Your goal is to have the white areas look as pure white as possible. So like not too warm or not too cool. And so there's obviously daylight white balance, cloudy, fluorescent lights. You can kind of adjust these based on your lighting, or you could do auto white balance, which is what I use pretty much all the time with this camera. I really never change it from auto white balance, and that pretty much means the camera itself is going to look over the image and pretty much try to find the perfect white balance based on your exact situation. And so I'd recommend just keeping it on auto white balance most of the time, especially if you're a beginner. But again, if you want to mess around with this, if you want to set a specific look, you can definitely do that. Next up are filters. So these are kind of like Instagram filters in a way. I'll just go through these so I can show you. For example, there's black and white, there's sepia tone. These essentially change a lot more than just the white balance. They change like the actual sharpness, the contrast, the colors of your image. So again, kind of like Instagram filters or like, Lightroom preset type of things. And these bake into your photos. So if I select black and white, and I take a photo with this camera, the photo coming out of it on the SD card is gonna be black and white, and there's no way to change it from that. So definitely keep that in mind if you utilize these. They're gonna be baked into the image. And personally, I just shoot on normal all the time with this. And again, if I want to turn it black and white, if I want to add filters or cool things like that, I usually find just doing that in Lightroom, doing that on my phone or in some sort of app is a little bit easier and more versatile because it's not just baked into the image from the start. All right, we're done with that. We're actually going to go into this one right now, which is a little bit deeper into the menu. And there are a few more things I want to adjust in here. So first of all, quality. We want to keep this at best. This is going to be the best quality, sharpest looking photos. I would just put it on best and not even think about it. Autofocus assist beam. This is this really bright light on the front that pretty much turns on whenever you autofocus if you're in a dark scenario. In theory, this is useful, but I just find it way more annoying than I find it useful. I always turn autofocus assist beams off on my cameras just because, I don't know, they're really annoying. Sometimes it's like a really bright red light. And honestly, the usefulness of it just isn't worth the trade-off of how bright and annoying it is. So I always keep my autofocus assist beams off. Digital zoom, I would turn that off as well. So when you zoom in and out with this lens, it does have 5x optical zoom, which isn't going to lower the quality at all when you zoom in. However, if you enable digital zoom, you can zoom in further, but it lowers the quality every time you zoom in with digital zoom, and it's just not going to give you as good looking photos. Personally, if you need to crop in, if I need to crop in on my images afterwards, again, I can just crop in on my phone in Lightroom in my editing software, and it'll be the exact same as digital zooming in the camera, but I just have that versatility of still having the full resolution, full quality photo beforehand. If you turn this on, it'll essentially imprint the date into every photo. A lot of people do like that. And you can even do the date and time, but personally, I'm not a really big fan of having the date locked into a photo like that, and so I always have this off. Next up, quick review. This essentially shows how long it's gonna show the photo you just took on the screen right after you take it. So obviously off, it won't show you the photo unless you go into the playback menu, but if you do 1 second or 2 or 3 seconds, it'll pretty much, as soon as you take a photo, it'll pop it up on screen so you can take a look at it real quick, and then it'll go away and just go right back to the shooting menu. I do sometimes find this useful, but I don't know, I usually just have it off, and if I want to look at my photos, I can just go into the photo playback menu. All right, next up, this is the last one, and this is face detection. Again, it's pretty straightforward. Essentially what this means is when you're autofocusing, if you're looking at a face, if there's a face on screen, it's always going to prioritize focusing on the face over anything else. And so usually when you are taking a picture of a person, you want to focus on their face. And so I always keep this on because, again, if it doesn't detect a face, it just won't even worry about it. If you're just taking a photo of something else, that doesn't involve an actual person with a face. And then everything else in this menu is essentially personal preference, like setup options. They're not really anything to do with the specific image quality. So we're going to skip over all those, and I'll let you kind of go through and figure these rest of these pages out on your own. But now I want to jump into the video settings, and we just have a few things there to change, and then we'll be all set. All right, so let's hit mode, go over to movie mode right here, and we'll do the same thing, jump into the menu with this button right here. All right, so exposure metering, this is the exact same as for photography. So again, I kind of already explained what that does. Then right here we have video resolution. So there's a bunch of options you can choose from. Of course, full HD, 1080p at 30 frames per second. This is going to be the best quality video out of this camera, and pretty much the one I would recommend for any sort of standard video. But this camera does have a couple slow motion modes if you want to record slow motion. So 720, 60 frames per second can give you a little bit of slow motion, but it is at 720p, which is going to be less sharp than full HD. But again, you can do a little bit of slow motion with that with 60 frames per second. And then this camera can also do 640 by 480 at 120 frames per second for a lot more slow motion video. But keep in mind, 640 by 480 is very low resolution. It's not going to look that good. It's not going to be very sharp at all these days. So keep that in mind and definitely mess around with it before you actually try to utilize some of the footage with this. But 120 frames per second in a budget camera like this is actually pretty good. So I 100% of the time just keep mine at full HD, 30 frames per second. Again, this is going to be the best quality video. Then we have these filters again. This is very similar to photography. There's just not as many for video. So we have normal, vivid, which just kind of adds some saturation and contrast, black and white, and then sepia tone. For this, I always just keep it on normal. And then we have a couple deeper settings to get to. So first up, autofocus assist beam. I already explained this as well. I keep that off all the time, and same with digital zoom actually. I always keep that off for video as well, again, because it just lowers the quality and lowers the resolution. And that's actually it. So everything else, again, is personal preference based, kind of setup based. That is it for the complete rundown of the best photo and video settings with the Kodak PixPro FZ55. I really hope this video helped you out. If it did, please consider dropping a like and subscribing to my channel, and I'll see you in the next one.